Lovelution is the evolution of love on the dance floor. We combine shamanic sound therapy with the world's grooviest dance music to infuse humanity and the universe with love. So that sound therapy is the combination of crystal and Tibetan singing bowls with hang, live percussion, and live vocalizations from truly the four greatest vocalists and most angelic voices I've ever encountered in my entire life. And the celebrations we've been having thus far, we've had 6 Lovelutions in Toronto, and each of them have been between 150 and 250 people. And this New Year's Eve, we're partnering with some of our friends over at Summer Days and Provoke and Way of Acting to create a much larger and more magical celebration in this beautiful furniture warehouse at Queen and Dufferin. It's 20,000 square feet. It's going to be Amazonian themed with visionary art from the Toronto visionary art community. There's going to be massage services, 2 different rooms with 10 DJs, lounge and plounge, and a culinary food market, 3D mapping visuals, and the Lovelution experience that has been so transcendent and transformative for everyone who has attended one of our Lovelutions previously and co-created this magical environment with us. And just to give you guys a little bit of background on how this all got started. So Justin Roy, he's the visionary and the DJ behind Lovelution. And I met him on the way to Electric Island, the party on Toronto Island, in the May long weekend. And I had been intending to get there much earlier than I actually arrived at, but I was in line for the ferry over to the island, and I see this guy walking towards me, and I'm just like looking at him like, what the hell? Like, I'm feeling this really palpable connection with him, and I say, "Hey man, like, where are you from?" And he sort of laughs at me. He says, "Well, I'm from Toronto, but I've been traveling for the last few months." So I ask him, "Oh, like, where have you been?" And he tells me that he's been in Costa Rica, and that in particular he ended his journey with his girlfriend. They spent 5 days doing ceremonies with this plant medicine called ayahuasca, and he asked me if I had heard of it, and I sort of smirked and I said, "Yeah, I've heard of it." At that time, I was just wrapping up the crowdfunding campaign for the publication of my book, Ayahuasca and Executives Enlightenment. So he and I started chatting, and we spent the next 8 hours at Electric Island just bonding and recognizing that we've been brothers forever. And he then started articulating some of his goals and ambitions when it comes to music. And he explained that, you know, he had been touring the world DJing in Ibiza and Miami and elsewhere, and playing in the club scene. And though it was like a great artistic expression, he was finding the culture a bit dark, a bit egoic. You know, there's obviously a lot of darker drug use. Not that there's anything wrong with substances, but just, you know, it's in the way that you use them. And then on these dance floors, there'd be a lot of egoic dancing. And, you know, when you're in that sort of environment, when they flip the light switch on at 5 a.m., you look around, it's kind of like, ooh, like it's not the most loving vibration. And so Justin did that scene for a number of years. And then he switched over to, he did a complete 180, got really into meditation and yoga, and started DJing more conscious dance parties where they had certain rules like no alcohol, no drugs, no talking. And he loved this community and the people that were there, but you know, there's something missing from this realm as well. There wasn't sort of that the deeper artistic expression. And sometimes when you're listening to dance music, you know, you just sort of want to be like you want your face to cringe. So it was like a little bit airy. But so what Justin had envisioned was combining and merging these two worlds of the deep, dark artistry behind the dance music scene, along with the conscious and intentional community, and really fostering community and connection at events and operating in a love vibration. So he invited me over to a small gathering at his apartment on June 5th of 2015. And when I arrived, I remember it was about 7 p.m. on a Friday, and I got there and I was just like, everybody was hugging each other, and they were just so loving despite many of the people not knowing each other. And I mean, it really sort of made me feel like I was at Burning Man again, and it was just a beautiful experience. And then Justin sort of welcomed everybody, and when he was talking, he said, "Okay, so the name for this movement it came to me in a dream last night, and it's called Lovelution, the evolution of love on the dance floor. And what we're going to do is create and harness a love vibration so that we can share it with the rest of the world. And so there was another group of people there called Vibe with the Tribe, who are now our partners on Lovelution, and they guided us through a sound therapy. And up until this point, I had never experienced a sound therapy in this capacity. Didn't really know what it meant, but there were 30 people lying down in this in Justin's apartment. And they started playing, they guided us through a meditation, and then they started playing the bowls. And for those of you who haven't experienced crystal or Tibetan singing bowls, they're super powerful. And as they were playing them, I'm just seeing this red light glowing, and it's my root chakra. And then it would transition up to an orange light glowing, and I'm just my entire perceptual field with eyes closed is emanating this orange light. And then it goes up to this yellow light, and it's my solar plexus chakra, and then continuing upwards to the heart, throat, third eye. And then Natasha, one of our goddess vocalists, she starts singing, and then suddenly I'm transported to the plains of Africa. And like, keep in mind, I'm dead sober during this situation, and I'm lying down, and I'm literally like lying on the plains of Africa, and I see antelope running around and lions off in the distance, and trees along the horizon, and this big blue sunny sky. And you know, I'm still mindful of the fact that I'm actually in an apartment, but I'm sort of like, what the hell is going on? And then Vanessa, another one of our vocalists, she starts singing, just belting these powerful voices that she says she channels, and they're not even of her own creation. And they start flowing, and I start just hurtling up this white tunnel of light, and I'm beaming through these fractal dimensions that are just spanning off and I'm hurtling at infinite speed, and just feeling this energy flowing through my body, and just energizing me, making me feel so full of love and light. And so this sound journey, the sound therapy, lasts about 30 or 40 minutes. And then Justin transitions into some soft music, and it's sort of this awakening process. And I mean, I open my eyes and I look at the people around me, and everybody's eyes are glossed over as though they've orgasmed. It's like some collective soulgasm, and people are laughing and crying and just sort of looking at one another in complete amazement. And so then Justin, he picks up the music, and it starts progressing and evolving, and within 15-20 minutes, we're just off the wall with the live percussion and just going crazy. And I mean, at this point, I had never actually heard Justin DJ, but in that moment, I'm like, holy shit, like this is what I've been looking for my entire life. I mean, I research and listen to music for like 2 to 4 hours each and every day, and he just has the style. He's by far the best vibe curator I've ever encountered. And at the end of that night, I left Justin and Chrissy's apartment with my roommate Tim, and we both looked at each other and we were just saying, like, who are those people? Where were we? What kind of vortex did we just step out of? Because it was the most loving vibration we had ever experienced, an even higher vibe than I had experienced at Burning Man the last 2 years. And so about a month later, we had a much larger Lovelution at Cabal in Toronto for 150 people, guiding them through the sound therapy, and it was just this magical and transformative experience for everyone. And again, like a much larger collective soulgasm, looking around the room and everybody just having had their minds blown, and then transitioning into Justin's set and just having the most off-the-wall, expressive, inclusive celebration imaginable. And that experience actually inspired me to start writing my second book, which is titled Lovelution, Burning Man, Psychedelics, and the Evolution of Love. And about a month later, in mid-August, I had my book launch party for my first book, Ayahuasca, An Executive's Enlightenment, and Justin was the DJ, and I had also brought in John Dill from New York City. For those who are familiar, he's the resident DJ of Robot Heart and one of my favorite human beings in the world. And so the two of them DJ'd this magical party all night, and then we had an after party at my house in which John and Justin DJ'd from 6 a.m. until 8 p.m. the following day. And it was there that Justin debuted one of his original productions, and it's called Isis, after the Greek goddess, not the terrorist group. And it actually started evoking tears from both mine and Chrissy's eyes the second he started playing it, and we didn't even know it was his track. And then John Dill asked him, he's like, man, can you please send me this track? I want to use it to open for my Robot Heart Sunrise set this year at Burning Man. So of course Justin was super into that, and then it was at that moment that John and I were talking with Justin and convinced him, like, hey man, we got to get you a ticket and we're all going to go to Burning Man together. So we ended up actually having another Lovelution the weekend before Burning Man, absolutely transcendent and magical. And then we went to Burning Man the week after that. And I mean, Burning Man, as any of you know who have been there, is so powerful. But and I won't go into full detail about our experience, but there was this incredibly magical moment on the night after the man burned, and we were at the Mayan Warrior bus, which is this super colorful bus with a face on the front of it that's a Mayan warrior that was designed by the visionary and psychedelic artist Alex Gray. And like, this bus is probably about $1.5 million, and elaborate sound system, and like super colorful and just magical. And so we were we had been dancing at the Mayan Warrior bus for about 10 hours, and we had met this guy named Blake from Santa Monica earlier in the week, and it was super interesting because about 2 minutes into meeting Blake, he and I telepathically synchronized. So we would be having verbal conversations, but then all of a sudden we'd be like looking at each other, be like, what? Like, we'd be inside each other's consciousness and inside each other's thoughts, like sharing a mind almost. And so being at the Mayan Warrior bus, Justin was standing over here and Blake was standing over here, and the three of us were forming this triangle, but we were about 20 feet apart, and the music's really loud and we're all dancing. And then all of a sudden I look at Blake and I'm just like, whoa, yeah, okay, yeah, for sure, thinking in my head. And then Justin, his consciousness merges with both mine and Blake's, and the three of us are telepathically communicating with one another that we're the same soul incarnated in three separate bodies. And I recognized how insane that sounds, and this was a concept that was totally outside of my awareness prior to this occurring. But as we're telepathically recognizing this, we all approach one another, and then we arrive to each other and we say out loud, we're like, okay, so we're the same soul incarnated in three separate bodies? And we all start laughing. We're like, yeah, like, we are. And so Blake then invited Justin and I to go back to his place in Santa Monica, where he and his fiancée lived, his fiancée Jess, and Jess hadn't been at Burning Man this year. So Blake arrived to their house about 3 hours prior to Justin and I arriving, and he informed Jess of this revelation, and she was kind of like, okay, like, whatever that means. And so the day that we arrived, Blake was actually at work, and Justin and I decided to go surfing all day in Santa Monica. And we were biking, at the end of the day, we were biking back to Blake and Jess's, and Jess was actually on the phone with her mom at the time, and she had never met us, and never seen what we looked like. And she saw us bike by the house, and she said to her mom, she's like, Mom, I gotta go. There are these two beautiful men outside, and I feel as though I'm supposed to go talk with them. So we didn't know she was doing this. We go and park our bikes around the back of the house, and as we're walking towards their apartment, she's coming out of it, and we just like run into her, and we're like, oh, hey. And she's like, hi. And then we're like, hey, I'm Michael. And Justin's like, I'm Justin. She's like, oh, yeah, that's you guys. And she's like, okay, wow, like, yeah, Blake's right. So after a few days in Santa Monica, Justin and I head back to Toronto. And Blake, during that time, had actually worked with this regressive hypnotherapist. Her name's Mariah. And she's a psychic as well, for those of you who are into those notions. And Blake said to her, he's like, okay, I met these two guys, Justin Roy and Michael Sanders, and I'm not going to tell you anything about them, but I just want to hear your thoughts. And so she's like, okay. So she taps in and she says, okay, I'm seeing Justin right now, and he's radiating this green light from his heart chakra, and he has a lot to do with plant medicines and music. He's a creator of music. And Blake says, yeah, you've got him. And then she said, okay, and I'm with Michael right now, and he's beaming white light, and he's this beacon of light, and he's here to share love, and he's a storyteller. And Blake says, yeah, you've got him as well. He says, when I first met him, the first thing I ever called him was a beacon of light. And not trying to toot my own horn or anything, like, this is just what happened during the story. And so then Mariah's in this psychic state, and she says to Blake, okay, Michael's spiritual body's here, and he wants to give us a healing. And so Blake says, okay. And they told me after the fact that my spiritual body was just beaming them with white light that immediately evoked tears from each of them, and they felt this profound healing power. And I mean, this is not a notion that I would have previously subscribed to, not something that I had ever understood before. I'd never called myself a healer or anything of that nature. And but here they were having this experience. And then Mariah tells Blake, okay, and I'm starting to understand that you guys are a triad star system, and you've come to planet Earth in order to help redefine the divine masculine and unify with the divine feminine and to share love and light. And so Blake was relating this story to me on the phone a few days later, and as he's telling me about this triad star system, I have this flashback to my own regressive hypnotherapy that I had gone through during April of 2014. And just so you know, regressive hypnotherapy is the notion of regressing into past suppressed, perhaps childhood memories of traumatic scenarios, to learn from them and grow from them and to hopefully heal them and then heal the trauma. And regressive hypnotherapy goes a step further in that people often report regressing into past lives. And I mean, these are well documented, and a ton of people are having these experiences, but the notion of past human lives had never resonated with me, and not that I dismissed that someone else didn't have one, but I just don't think that I had ever had one. So in my regressive hypnotherapy back in April of 2014, I had regressed into past childhood memories. I had gone to like these futuristic visions of planet Earth and other planets, and then the therapist had encouraged me to go to somewhere that was of a place and time that was of significance that I wanted to visit. And I arrived to this place where it was just pure white light, and I said to her, I'm like, there's nothing to want for. I'm both male and female. I'm complete. It's totally peaceful. And she says to me, okay, like, what are you? Where are you? I said, I'm a star. And she said to me, okay, does the star have a name? And my conscious mind jumped in and was like, no, like, stars don't have names. That's a human construct. And so the therapist said to me, okay, well, is there a sound or, any word that resonates with it? And my conscious mind wanted to jump in and be like, no, what are you talking about? But then out of my mouth comes the word pherome. And she says, okay, how would you spell that? And my mouth is just like articulates. It's called pherome. It would be spelled P-H-O-R-O-M. And I'm a star in the 9th and the 12th dimensions. And my conscious mind was like, what the fuck are you talking about? But so this is what's happening. And then I look and I see these 2 red stars in the 10th and the 11th dimensions. And I say to her, I'm like, okay, give me a second. I'm going to teleport over into these dimensions. And when I do, I see that these stars are actually glowing the same white light as I am, and that they just look different when I'm not in their realm. And so when Blake's relating this story to me about his experience of us being a triad star system, then I have this flashback to about a year and a half prior of my own regressive hypnotherapy and encountering this star system in the 9th through the 12th dimensions. And I'm just covered in goosebumps and like filled with this energy. And so if we flash forward to the weekend of October 2nd, we threw another Lovelution at Cabal, and it was magical. And I mean, I could go on forever about the experiences and the uplift that occurs in the community and just the unity that happens at Lovelution. But the very next night, we had a free Lovelution as a gift in honor of Nuit Blanche. And so we actually had an outdoor celebration at Coronation Park, which is right along the lake near Fort York, for those of you who are familiar. And we started playing and having our celebration from 2 a.m. until 9 p.m. the following day. So about a 19-hour party with an emphasis on the sunrise. And we had our sound system, and we built this cathedral of sound in the middle of this park. And we had about 150 people celebrating with us at sunrise. And throughout the journey, we had the widest range of people, ranging from all-night partiers to grandmothers and their granddaughters and cyclists and runners joining in to dance with us the next day. And Blake and Jess had actually flown in from Santa Monica for this weekend. And on the Sunday, Jess said to me, she's like, "Hey, Mike, I need to share something with you that I haven't yet." And she goes, so when you guys were at Burning Man, the Sunday morning that you, Blake, and Justin recognized that you're the same soul incarnated in 3 separate bodies, she's like, I woke up that morning to go with my friend Lindsay because she was getting a tattoo, but I suddenly felt the impulse to get my own. And she lifts up her shirt and shows me that she had gotten a triangle tattooed right on her heart. At the same moment that Justin, Blake, and I recognized this, and then later realized we're a star system, which again I know sounds absolutely crazy. So we then, a few weeks later, we ended up meeting. A few weeks later, sorry, Eduardo Castillo, who's another one of our favorite DJs, and he was actually the DJ playing at the Mayan Warrior Bus when Justin, Blake, and I came to our telepathic realization. And so in mid-October, Justin and I spent about 3 days in this creative vortex in which he was producing music, I was doing vocalization storytelling, and I was also working on writing, and we were doing movement and like gymnastics and stuff. And we woke up on the Sunday morning and saw that Eduardo Castillo was playing in Toronto that very day. So I shot him a message. I'm like, hey dude, like you're DJing on a Sunday here? And he's like, yeah, I actually didn't realize you lived in Toronto, but my set's at 7 tonight. So come. And so Justin and I go there, and we're really expressive when we're dancing. We're doing handstands and just all sorts of crazy shit. And it was a wonderful crowd of people, but more of the sort of like bobbing your head, like having a drink, really into the groove of the music, and not so expressive with the dancing. And then Nabil, he's the organizer of Summer Days, who were having this Eduardo Castillo party. He came up to us and he's like, who are you guys? Like, thank you so much for bringing this energy. And then at the end of the set, Eduardo invited Justin and I to the after party that these guys were having, and we ended up bonding with them and talking until about 5 in the morning, and just meeting this incredible group of people who were all interested in this love vibration and interested in what we were doing. And as we were leaving, Justin and I said to one another, like, okay, we're going to work with Summer Days in some capacity. Don't know when it's going to happen, but it's definitely happening because we have such similar tastes in music, and we feel and want the same things. And so then we ended up having a Lovelution at this beautiful Moroccan layer, gorgeous venue called The Gates in Toronto on Halloween. And again, just mind-blowingly beautiful, the most uplifting and highest vibrational celebration and Lovelution we had to date. And one of the partners in The Gates afterwards told us, he's like, okay, like, guys, I've never experienced anything like that. Like, let me know when you want to have your next celebration, because I want to essentially give you this venue for like an extremely discounted price, like even for free, because I just haven't experienced anything like this. So we had decided we were going to do it on New Year's Eve, but then I received a call from the partner at The Gates, and he says to me, he's like, Michael, I'm really sorry, but my partner has received an offer for $8,000 to rent out the venue for this night. I'm like, dude, like, take it, like, totally, I understand. And as I hang up the phone, I say to Justin, like, okay, I guess The Gates is out. We're going to have to find a different venue for New Year's Eve. And then at that exact moment, I receive a phone call from Nabil, the organizer of Summer Days. I pick it up, and he says to me, he's like, hey, Michael, what are you guys doing for New Year's? I'm like, well, we were just talking about that. So he says to me, okay, he's like, I have a really amazing idea. Can you come meet me downtown tomorrow? So Justin and I arrive, and we arrived at this beautiful furniture warehouse at Queen and Dufferin, which has this massive Buddha statue outside of it, these Buddhist fountains inside that are spraying water. It's absolutely stunning in size, 20,000 square feet, high ceilings, beaming windows, like multiple rooms, everything. And he's like, yeah, he's like, we want to collaborate with you guys because we keep hearing the music you bring in. I mean, he's like, we're experts at logistics and making sure everything runs smoothly, and we want you guys to help us create this magical experience, and we want to do it Amazon jungle themed, and we want massage, and we want multiple rooms and a lounge and a culinary food market, and 3D mapping visuals and visionary art, and we just think it'd be amazing. So that's what we're doing this New Year's Eve, and we would absolutely love to have you guys join to help us share the love vibration, to co-create this magic with you, and to just ultimately infuse humanity and the entire universe with love, and to come together. And we absolutely love you, and we'd be honored to celebrate with you.